I guess one of the underlying principles of bushcraft is to not carry into the forest things that the forest can provide for you. That way it lightens your load. But more than that, learning how to use natural materials for some of your basic requirements brings you much closer in kinship to the forest itself, and the forest seems to support you. The most important tool to carry with you in forest is some means of cutting. A small sheath knife and a saw will do the job, but when you carry tools like that, it's important to carry a first aid kit with you, because inevitably there will occasionally be accidents. The other thing that's very difficult to provide for yourself from nature alone is a means of boiling water. And this is something that throughout the filming of Wild Food was of interest, because our ancestors didn't have one of these, a cooking pot. But of course today we carry these sorts of things with us. There are basically two shapes of pot that you can carry. Tall, thin ones like this, or short, fat ones like that. And they both have different uses. If I'm travelling for just a couple of days and my cooking's going to be simple, based on boiling, then I'll take this sort of pot. And the advantage of this is that I can push this simply straight into the side of the fire like that. And because it's tall, the flames can be blown around the side of the pot by the wind, and it cooks what's in there very easily. The only problem with putting your pot in the fire like that is that it removes some of the heat from the fire coming sideways. So in the ideal world, particularly in cold weather, what we want to do is to be able to put our pot up here. That's also very important for these short, fat pots, which are much better over the top of the fire because they have a wider base. And they also, in heavy rain, will help to protect the fire from the weather as well. There are many different ways that we can go about suspending a pot over the fire, and that's what I want to have a look at today. This is one of the simplest of all ways to suspend a pot over the fire, and you can adjust the height by simply moving this log. If you move this back, the pot will rise up, and if you move it forwards, the pot comes down. So it gives you quite good control. It's very straightforward, very easy. And the ground is hard and we can't hammer a stake into it, so if it's rocky conditions, this is one of my favourite ways to suspend a pot, and it's the use of a very simple tripod and a withy. This is just a branch that I've softened and made pliable, and I've left a hook on the end to suspend the pot. We start by making our tripod, and these pieces of wood are mostly dead wood. It's not necessary to always have green, fresh, living wood for this job. Work out the size of your tripod to begin with, then take your withy and fashion a clove-hitch around the top of the logs. It takes a moment or two to work out the right length as you go around. Like so. And then pull that tight, and then take the top over like so and through, and it's on there that we'll suspend our pot. What we do now is move the whole tripod over the fire, and the great joy is that the weight is spread over 3 legs, so in soft conditions it doesn't sink so badly as other methods, and on hard ground it's got its own integral strength, and the height is easily adjusted by simply spreading out the legs. The other thing that's good is if you leave these branches fairly long, you can also hang things on to dry. It's very good on a canoe trip when you've got wet socks you want to dry off. My favourite way to hang a pot over the fire is a method that provides me with great flexibility. I can lower or raise the pot very easily, and the arrangement only cuts off 1 degree of the 360 degrees of the fire circle, which means I've got good access to the fire and I've got good versatility. I wouldn't normally make this on an overnight stop. This is a method I would use if I'm staying in a place for a few days. And the first thing I need is a fork stick. Whenever we make a fork stick in the woods, we don't look for a Y, because it's very difficult to hammer a Y into the ground. If you hammer on one end, it'll split. So instead, we look for this, a straight with a side branch coming off. That's perfect. The other end I need to put a point, and when we make points on sticks in the woods, we do it with just 3 cuts. 1, 2, 3. And there's a good point, and it's efficient, and we haven't wasted energy. So that's the first thing I'm going to need. Next thing I need is a stick to suspend the pot, which is a good nice one there. What I'm looking for is the way it naturally wants to hang, that way, especially when it's pushed into the ground, and that'll suit my purpose better. And the tip of this, I make a very small depression. What I've got is I've got a flat surface with a depression in it, and I've slightly cut away underneath it, like so, you can see, and there's the depression. So I've carved the hook now into this stick, and it's important to start with the hook that gives you the lowest setting for your pot hanger, and of course that's going to hold the pot just over the embers. What I'll do now is I'll make a series of notches down the stick so that we have good adjustability. The reason I like this pot hanger is the great adjustability it gives you. You can cook more elaborate foods. You can make breads in a billy can like this, and you've got the ability to keep your food warm or to allow yeast to rise, and at the same time you can drop it down to get a more constant heat for more aggressive cooking. It's absolutely perfect. You've got very good access to the fire, and also when you're not using it you can put your pots and your other ingredients under this stick, and that tends to stop people knocking them over when they're moving around the fire. Couldn't be better.